Hi everyone, I'm Guariano, and in this video I interview Boyah J. Farrah. He is a writer who's originally from Somalia, and he came to America as a refugee when he was 15 after experiencing war for 3 years. So he writes about Somalia, war, death, peace. He's published in a number of journals, including Salon, The Guardian, Truthdig, and so forth. So with the recent bombing in Mogadishu, I thought he could give a different perspective on what's really been going on in Somalia and in Africa. So not only do we talk about the recent bombing and US foreign intervention in Somalia, but we also talk a lot about war. We really get into the psychology of war, the Gory of war, the myth and romanticization of war, and we also talk about the demoralization of refugees. We also get into the misconception of pirates in Somalia and how they originally started, and just death and peace in general. Boyah also shares a lot of his personal stories of his life during the war, seeing all the violence, destruction, and suffering that comes with war. So I found this whole conversation super fascinating and inspiring. I was truly blown away and touched by Boyah's story and message overall. So I hope you find listening to Boyah as valuable as I did.
بدي عاشق وبلا علي بدي عاشق وبلا ما بورني كبرين سديو جركي وبدي
Somalia has been in a civil war for years now. Most of the fighting since 2009 has been concentrated in southern Somalia. AL-Shabaab, an Islamist militant group, continues to fight the Somali government, engaging in bombing campaigns that have killed hundreds of innocent civilians. So before we get into the recent suicide bombing in Mogadishu, which did kill more than 300 people, can you just talk about your experience growing up in Somalia and some of the struggles you went through being stuck in a war zone?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Somalia has been a tragic place for 27 years now. Initially, the war started because of leadership, a lack of real leadership. I remember 1990 when the war started, the rebels as well as the government who got defeated were all looking for a leader. That leader, the leader who emerged from the after the collapse of the government, said that instead of saying let's go build a nation, he said let's kill the other tribe. And then that started a civil war. And
that was during the early 90s.
Early 90s, 91, 92. And then that sort of sent a shockwave to the people that nobody could work because we've never seen dead people before. We've never seen the Gory of war. And as soon as the Gory of war come, everybody froze. Nobody wants to do work. The farming sort of kind of like, die down. The sky refused to give us water and rain, and starvation came. And then people get used to war, so they went back and farm again. International community tried to help us out. So the war has, there has been different shape and different form, different people that have been driving the war is not the same. The war that started in 1990 is no longer the same. It's got a different drivers now.
Yeah, and you think it's lessened in terms of violence?
Say it again.
It's the violence has lessened since.
It has
started.
lessened naturally. What goes down must come down.
Yeah.
Somali people understand one thing very clear: war is bad. But one has to learn, one has to discover, one has to have the realization how to stop the war and how to use the right words to get people engaged about peace. And that is very hard to discover or to uncover.
Yeah.
It's easy to destroy things. It is incredibly hard to put it back together. Remember, those who started the war, every single one of the majority of them died, including the guy who was principally the guy who started the war.
Yeah.
He got killed. He killed people and he died. So there's no forgiveness in war. No one survives. The killer, those who get killed, and those who kill are both victims.
Yeah.
We are all sitting in the dust, the ashes of the war. In the Somali people, there's no victor. But naturally, what goes up must come down. Somali people right now are looking for a way out of this. But there's nothing, they don't control their destiny anymore.
Yeah.
It's the international community that controls our destiny now. So anything that's happening in Mogadishu right now, Somalis are victims. They're being used, just like the war in Syria. There's a proxy war in Mogadishu. Mogadishu people are 27 years of war.
Yeah.
It happened in Mogadishu. Every child is there was born into the war,
Yeah.
So since we don't drive our own destiny, and others who don't care about us are driving the war forward.
Yeah, and it seems like having war for so long, just all the violence in war, it becomes normalized in a way, and like death almost becomes normal for a lot of the people there. So can you just describe some of these stories that you write about you being like a teenager and a young kid and seeing just like death all around you and you having to bury so many different people? I remember you telling a story where you were playing at the beach, because you would often go to the beach to get rid of or like ignore your hunger, right? Because you were so hungry that you would go in the ocean in the cold water to try to forget about your hunger. And you were telling a story where you saw a soldier just kill an innocent woman just because she was teasing him, right? And then you had to bury. So can you just like tell those stories?
There are a lot of things that I have seen during the war. For one, because I'm the first son in the family, and to be the first son in a Somali family, it's not like America.
Yeah.
You are the carrier of the bloodline in the family. Your last name is the same as your father's name. You gotta honor your father. You gotta fight for the family. You gotta protect the family. You gotta carry the gun. You gotta kill for the sake of survival. But the thing is, I was born in Mogadishu. And when you're born in Mogadishu, you don't learn. There are certain things that you don't learn. You don't learn how to survive because you're in a city. Remember, we had access to the movie theater, access to ice cream, just like here in Boston. There was no really, everything was there at the time before Mogadishu was destroyed. So war just came, just like the sun. Like it drifted into Mogadishu, and before we know it, war started, and all of a sudden, I had to learn how to survive. And since I'm the first boy, there's a lot of questions that I had. I'm actually writing about that. The war, I came when I was 15, so I was about 13 years old.
Okay, so you still remember.
Yeah, 13, 14, I remember everything, I was the man. I wanted to be the man, and I wanted to kill if I stay raw, like if I don't lie. I wanted to show my manhood, But the thing is, the war was young, which means young people at the time were not needed. So even if you want to fight, there's enough able men to fight, so you were not needed.
Yeah.
So, but I remember thinking about wishing that I was older, so I can be given a gun, so I can be a man. I wanted to prove my manhood.
Yeah.
But I remember one day, my best friend two of my best friends. We used to go to the beach, and there's something about water that changes your mood and how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
Your hunger disappears, you know. It really disappears, man.
Yeah.
You go in the water, in the cold water, there's magic
Yeah, it really
in the water, you know, salt water. So we used to go there, and we saw massive gory stuff, man. You know, we saw a man being killed, stoned to death. I mean, and the last thing I remember was like the ear. The ear never dies. Everything died about this guy. I never forgot his name. You know, they buried this guy with a stone, but the ear never died. It was still twitching, like you can see it. Like it didn't die. Everyone is leaving. The guy's dead, but he's not dead because the ear is still twitching. We saw that. We saw this girl who I don't know, when you're a teenager and you discover your fascination with girls, and all of a sudden this girl gets killed in front of you.
Yeah,
she becomes your own fascination, you know. Right now the beauty, I look at her as the most beautiful woman under the sun, you know, because she was a victim.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing I could do for her. It is one of the guilty things I carry from the war. She and the guy were together. They came to the beach together. I remember what she was wearing. I remember the scarf that she had. I remember she was either skinny or fat. She had a little bit of thickness to it. She was a bit taller than him. She has that iconic Somali look, with stretched neck, you know, the chiseled face. She wanted the guy. She really wanted the guy, because I could tell, you know. She wanted to just tease him so he can beg her and beg her and beg her, and finally she can say, honey, you know, whatever you want, I'll give it to you, let's go, you know. But this guy was a killer. And once, in the Somali culture, once you kill, you know, or Islamic culture, once you kill, death, I mean, blood is something that you cannot wash off. I mean, you could go to Hajj, as Muslims go to Mecca once a year. You cannot, once in a lifetime, rather, an individual once in a lifetime goes there to ask forgiveness. Blood is the only thing that does not wash.
Yeah.
So once this person, and the people in the war, once they kill in Somalia, they know for sure they're not going to heaven for sure. So they might as well kill and kill and kill and kill.
Okay, yeah.
Because you're not going to heaven, because Somalis have hell or heaven.
Yeah.
So this guy, we assume that he had killed other people. So for him, killing was just like drinking latte at Starbucks.
Yeah.
And I can say that because I've been living in the United States of America for like over 20 years.
Yeah.
So this guy she teased him. She walked away from him. But meanwhile, three of us are fantasizing about her body. You know, saying that you would have to be a killer to get a girl like that. And I'm saying, you know, I'm gonna get a gun soon, become a militiaman. I'm gonna get a girl like that. And the other guy was saying, no, you're never gonna get it. I'm gonna do it. So three of us are just like fascinating about, you know, describing the body parts of this girl and laughing. And, you know, we didn't know how to swim, so we're in the shallow water. And all of a sudden, she walked away from the guy, took his gun. I remember he had his gun in his back. He just took it over, you know, removed it from his shoulder, and just shot her. And he didn't.
She was walking back.
Yeah, and he didn't even wait for her. He didn't even he didn't even check if she's dead or not. He just shot her, took his gun, and just walked.
Wow.
And I don't know if I would recognize this guy now if I see him somewhere in the United States of America. I don't know. I think I would, because every day as we see that guy, we used to call him a woman killer. But we knew that if we say that in front of him, he'll kill us.
Yeah.
So we used to every time he walked by, we used to say, oh, look, a woman killer, he's still alive. You know, we used to imagine him dying because of the crime that he committed in front of us. That we had that guilty feelings towards him, I hope he dies, but we couldn't say it.
Yeah.
And he used to go to war and come back, and he was always in the city, and he always had an AK-47 with him,
Yeah.
and he always chew cod, so he was always high out of that.
Yeah, well, it seems like that's what people look up to in that country ever since they're young. It's like they want to be that soldier that gets like all the girls and that gets all the prestige and all the power.
Yeah.
But then you're saying you saw this person die and you just felt like so guilty. It was just like you didn't have that sense of where you're like, oh, this guy's like oh, like a hero for doing this, right? It's like you saw it yourself. It's like, no, these people are doing something very wrong, and you kind of notice that very early. But I bet there's like a lot of people that don't notice that and that kind of get caught up in that cycle as well. And it's kind of like really amazing for you to say that guy would have killed children, would have killed you and your friends without any problem.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and then I also heard the story where your next door neighbor came to your house looking for you with an AK because you weren't his friend anymore. Is that?
Well, this is like Civil War. It's just like two families fighting. Like imagine. I grew up in Bedford, Massachusetts, and imagine Bedford. It's a fantastic small little town outside of Boston. Imagine in Bedford, and I'm using in Bedford because I love Bedford, and I went to Bedford High School, and I want to honor them because they honor me when I came to this country with so much knowledge, so much stuff. Imagine in Bedford, people are, all of them are from Bedford, and they will go to high school, and they have friends, and they know each other, and they know their cousins. All of them grew up there. Imagine if these people say, one says, I'm Irish, the other one says, I'm Italian. Italians do not like Irish, for example, and they got guns. And imagine the children, the parents talking to their children and saying, hey, your next door neighbor is an Irish. We're Italian. Yeah. They were back to us for the last 20 years, 30 years. We could kick them out. Children listen to their parents, and whatever their parents say, they implement.
Yeah.
My best friend, which he survived, and we have to reconcile now, because this is a civil war. Somali people are the same.
Yeah.
We were just this was a war between families. I care for that guy, and I'm sure he cares for me. Right now, we all look for each other, and we never talk about what we did to each other. We always say, who survived? Where is such and such? And where is this such and such kill?
Yeah.
And those who kill, majority of them are dead. Because once you kill, the angel of death also comes to look for you.
And they accept that themselves.
And they accept that themselves, because when you take a life, your life is at stake.
Yeah.
And it's better for you to die anyways, because a guilty conscience will haunt you for the rest of your life. So it's not really the one who kills and the one who is killed. It is better to be the one who is killed.
Yeah.
It is the position of the man who kills. It's not something that you wish to be.
Yeah.
Because I personally know people who kill, and I know people who say that, who beg God that catastrophe happens. Remember, there's a catastrophe happening in their heads, or in their head, and to wash that catastrophe off, they want other catastrophes to happen. So basically that's how it is. Like you do not want to, you don't want to be in that position. So my best friend, I love him, I know he loves me, and I know this was a civil war, and Somalis, what we're looking for is reconciliation. What we're looking for is for the proxy war to stop.
Yeah.
Because right now what's happening in Somalia, it has nothing to do with the Somalis. It has everything to do with proxy war.
Yeah.
Countries fighting over each other, empowering the Somalis, incentivizing Somali people to fight each other. And who's paying the price? Poor women, poor children. Those are people who are paying price. But ultimately, what goes up must come down. And nations have responsibility to, instead of creating more proxy wars to create a peace.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely do have that responsibility, but I don't know if they really doing the best that they can right now.
Yeah.
But in your essay, the Good Pirates, I quickly want to go over the whole misconception of pirates in Somalia, because like that's what most people know about Somalia is they always think about pirates. Can you talk about this like misconception that people have, especially outsiders, of how the pirates really started in Somalia?
The pirates is something that it's a good story. If you exaggerate it, you can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, Hollywood likes to story like that. To like, there's money in it, so you exaggerate it and make it something it's not.
Yeah.
I'm from the city. I'm not really. I was born in Mogadishu, and Mogadishu is where I'm from. But my family is from a small coastal town called AL, and that is the birthplace of piracy. So I happen to know pirates. Pirates are not what they are portrayed in the media. They are young people who are fighting against international fishing, looting of the fish, of the resources in the Somali Sea. Not only do they loot them, because men, and I'm not saying all mankind are they're the same really. We all behave similarly. We are one species. I know sometimes we call each other whites and blacks and Chinese. Those are tools for power grab, But before we separate each other, we are one species. And what do we all have the need to survive. Wars come from that need to survive. In Somalia, for example, as long as you're afraid your action is a consequence, and you can go to prison, you can go to jail, it is the fear of going to jail that you behave. Okay. But once you go outside of that, then your animalistic side of it comes out of you. There are two things inside of you, right? Animal side and good side. Yeah. Countries, when they try to fish in Somalia, ships when they go to Somalia and try to steal loot this unprotected ocean, what they also do is kill the locals. I saw this whole family people that they kill, fishermen. Yeah, they kill the locals. They capture them, toy with them, and kill them. So when someone kills you, and the international, that you have no voice internationally and you have no government to protect you, what do? You go back to basic instinct of saying, let's get together and fight back. Yeah. Piracy was born in the Somali people's need to protect their fishermen, and of course, a villager who have never seen war or never seen money gets a 20 million one time, and he tells other kids that, hey, I just got 20 million now. I'm driving a Toyota Land Cruiser, and I got two girls, beautiful women, and now I'm not only chewing cod, but you're drinking alcohol, and you've never had alcohol before. What do? All the other boys are gonna emulate you. Right? They're gonna be like, oh my God, look at him. He's doing great. I'm gonna do the same. So, once the international community started this ransom thing, that's when modern piracy was born. But it started in a very holistic way. Fisher communities protecting themselves against international looting, fishers looting their coast. That's how piracy started. Yeah. How did it end? Once the elders, first they encouraged their kids to fight. Once the kids got money, they couldn't control them anymore. Because 19 years old with 20 million, how are you going to control them? There's no way. They start losing their children to alcohol, drugs, guns, prostitution, all kind of bad stuff. Once they see that the threat of fish stealing the fishes versus a whole community decaying within by filthy money. Once they see that this disintegration of the community is going to be complete, that if they allow this filthy money to come in, they get together and they stopped. So it is the community who started this international piracy thing. It is also the community that stopped the international piracy thing.
Yeah.
And it always goes back to failure of international community to protect the poor people there.
Yeah, because it was much more of a problem back in the day, you're saying, right? Like a couple years.
It actually now came back.
Oh, it came
So
back.
now you might see uptick of piracy again, because once the international fishing vessels come back, now they are armed.
Yeah.
They shoot anybody that they see, and then people are gonna try to protect themselves.
Yeah. So, I wanted to talk about now the recent bombing that just occurred last week in Somalia. So, the government there was quick to blame Al-Shabaab, even though they didn't say it was actually them. Like, everyone pretty much knew that it was that they were behind the bombings, and it was 2 massive truck bombs that exploded, and they killed at least 300 people. So it was the deadliest attack since the rise of Al-Shabaab a decade ago. So what's your opinion on Al-Shabaab, and how much of a threat do you think they really are to Somalia and their everyday life?
Well, Al-Shabaab is part of the mess. They're no different than any other what's happening in Somalia. The pirates, the militiamen, it's the war had given birth to this mess that we're looking at. It's easy for anyone to say Al-Shabaab did it, and I'm not trying to protect the Al-Shabaab, but as a writer, I'm not a politician. I'm a writer. From a writer's perspective, I think Al-Shabaab is given anything that nobody can explain. They just say it's Al-Shabaab. It's easy for the government to just say it's Al-Shabaab, and that shuts down any kind of investigation, any kind of pursuing. It's a lazy way of answering the unanswerable. How did 300 innocent men and women lost their lives in a split second? And where did the truck come from? So remember, Somalis they know each other. We know Somalis, we know each other. We know how Somalis live. We know which tribe lives where. Somalia is now balkanized by tribal enclaves in the north, Somaliland, Puntland, Jubaland, Galmudug. There's so many small little balkanization, and they all go back to a tribe. Each tribe, their ancestral land, they went back to their ancestral land, and they say, we are a government of our own. And the international community incentivized that. They say, oh yeah, they are a government on their own. So no one can actually say it is Al-Shabaab. And I'm not trying to protect the Al-Shabaab. I know Al-Shabaab came from the refugee camps. There are young people. The average Al-Shabaab is 13 years old. You're going to tell me 13 years old is the man who's going to shape Somali's politics? It does not make sense to me. Al-Shabaab is a foreign agent. It's one of the mess. Yeah. They do not work for the Somalis. It's a political entity from an outsider. And let me repeat, I'm not a politician. But I know Al-Shabaab is a foreign agent. They work for somebody from outside. Somebody financed them for political reach. Just like the government, the Somali government, they do not make their own money. The government, they pay directly from the United Nations. So nothing belongs. The Somali president does not belong to Somalis. That's why he doesn't have an independent voice. There's a new guy from New York who came around the same time I came, who got educated in the U.S. and went back to Somalia. When you don't have your own army and you don't pay your own security, that you have very little political will. So it's easy for you. So the only option you have is anything that happens in Somalia, Al-Shabaab did it. And so they make Al-Shabaab larger than what it is. You know, if Shabab is that powerful, there's Somaliland and there's Puntland.
Yeah.
We do not see catastrophic bombings in that area. We only see it in Mogadishu, and Mogadishu is the heart of Somalia. It is the capital city.
Yeah.
Majority of us are born in Mogadishu. That's the only place that we know of. You know, so somehow we want to be able to see responsible government who are willing to go through pain. And when I say pain, who would go there and say, we care for the people, we came from this place, you know, forget about the international politics.
Yeah.
This is where I'm from. This is where I will die. I respect the other countries, but let me deal with this.
Yeah.
You know, so we don't have that yet.
Well, you were talking about proxy wars. It just seems like the countries outside are only making things worse. You had the explosions that came from the Trump administration after they stepped up the U.S. campaign against Al-Shabaab in Somalia. So in March, Trump declared that Somalia a so-called zone of active hostilities, and it gave a wide latitude to the military leaders to launch airstrikes and ground assaults in Somalia. So what do you think about the U.S. presence there? Do you believe that it's more aggressive than it was before, and do you think that's helping the Somali people at all? Or
You know, leadership matters always. If you see a mess, don't look at the people, look at the leader. We know Trump presidents is not, you know, is messing up here and then domestically, you know, so what do you expect of internationally? You know, there's a great polarization in this country of ours, you know, United States of America. So internationally, of course, he's going to project the same polarization that we see domestically. And every bullet discharge creates enemy or enemies. In a Somali culture, a man who kills your father is your infinite enemy. That's how Somali culture is. Yeah. So the more people you bomb and kill, you know, the more fundamentalist, or the more young people who are furious, who wants to create havoc in the world, you'll see. Because like I said, you know, every bullet discharge creates more destruction and more animosity between mankind. Yeah. And I don't think that's what we need.
What people were saying, they were saying that it was a retaliation because before this, you had the U.S.-led attack by special forces with the Somali government that actually killed a couple civilians. I think it was like close to 10, including children. So there was people saying that it was like a retaliation for this attack that went wrong.
No, well, they remember when we say Somali government, the Somali government is not really. You can't really say it's a government. Yeah. You know, a government that gets the whole entire budget, the whole entire salary comes from an outsider. So when you say government is a government that's accountable to the people, and I'm not trying to attack the government. I'm just stating fact. Yeah. As a writer, a fact. Fact is a fact. Somali government does not pay salary. Somali government, their whole entire salary comes from outside. You know, so any narrative that's given, they'll accept it. Anybody can kill anybody in Somalia, and they have to accept it because they don't control anything. They control nothing. You know, so when you say Somali government allowed it, you know, all Somalis, they know that Somali government is non-existent really. You know, the regional government has more power than the federal government. Why? Because the regional government is one tribe that lives in one area. They collect taxation. They pay their leader, and they provide men who's going to fight for them. Yeah. So they are accountable to each other. But the federal central government, who is it accountable to? Do they collect taxation from Hargeisa? Do they do it from Gory? Do they do it from Mogadishu itself? No. So until the Somali people get the government that they pay, that they are a leader that's accountable to Somalis, the mess is going to continue. But the sad thing is, I'm a product of war. I have seen what war does to young people. Every bullet discharge creates more young, angry men who's looking for a meaning. Yeah. The ability to take revenge is real. Yeah. And so if United States of America, we really have to stop this militarization of the world and go back to the basics. China right now is building roads. People are becoming have a much more respect for Chinese government than the United States. Yeah. Why? The only time you remember America, I was in Somalia 2013. The only time I remember my country is when I saw the drones. Yeah. That's the only thing. And the second time you remember America is when you see mercenaries. Yeah. Somali guys who work directly for the U.S. They look incredibly well. They look like the Marines, man. Wow. They look beautiful driving trucks in Somalia. Those are the only two times I remember United States of America. When do you remember China? When you look at the road. Yeah. The road that they're building, the airport that they're building, that's when you remember. So which one is going to last? Yeah. You think about it.
The one that doesn't have 800 military bases all over the world.
So that's what I'm saying. What goes up must come down. And once again, I'm a writer. I'm not a politician. I'll never be a politician. I'm always going to write stories. But I think we should focus on the soft power. Yeah. That mankind is all looking for the same thing. Somalis are trying to survive. All they're looking for is some kind of peace. For 27 years of war, man, we know everything about war. We know where the solution is, but we don't have the right partner. Yeah. An honest partnership who'll say, and let me just say one note about America. United States of America is a country who contributed the most to the Somalis. No doubt about it. The largest Somali people outside of Africa in the Western Hemisphere is in Minnesota. Since I came to this country, since high school, I've been sending money to my grandmother. Every single Somali sends money to Somalia. When I went back to Somalia, you know who's from Europe and you know who's from America in Somalia. Because a lot of the people who came to this country are educated when they go back. A lot of the people who come from other countries are not really educated. Okay. So people know the contribution that the United States have made to the Somalis. We just don't put that in a narrative form. Okay, yeah. And I don't know why, but these politicians don't do well in selling the goods that we have done instead of focusing on, killing villages because we're looking for one terrorist. Yeah. So one terrorist, and I don't even like that term, it's a political term, but one person that you go after and you kill a whole family, you just create a whole village, a village that hates you. Yeah. So I don't know how to stop this mess. The only thing I can do is write. Yeah. And I'm gonna write about it. And I just finished my first book. I don't know the title, but I wrote since July 600 pages of stuff, and it's gonna explore war, peace, death, destiny, childhood, all kind of stuff. And it's a wild world, man.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, I just wanted to end it off with talking about this myth of war and this romanticization of war that's really created by governments and by media and by movies that we see ever since we're babies, right? Like you're saying, we see these heroic type of movies of say Rambo or American Sniper, where you have a guy that's seen as a hero for going out to different countries and sniping a shit ton of people. And it's this whole mythology behind war and holding these soldiers to a very high pedestal of seeing them as a hero, and that's what really creates this cycle of war and these young people wanting to join the military and go fight against someone they'd never met in their lives. Yeah. Right? Why are you gonna fight someone that you've never met in your life? Yeah. So can you, like, I remember you saying your favorite movie was Rambo when you were a kid, but then after you experienced all this war, you changed your mind on that. So can you, like, just go into that whole myth of war?
Well,
And then one more thing, I also you mentioned the proverb of when elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers, which I think is so important in war, that we overlook the people that really suffer, the children, the women, the mothers, that we seem to overlook. It's like a video game that we almost, it's a game, right? Like war is not a game, but it's treated as a game for the people that haven't experienced war and haven't experienced the violence and the destruction that goes behind war. So can you just explain, go into that a bit?
I think I used that proverb in Chris Hedges' piece or Robert Shear, I think, interview for Truthdig. And let me give a shout out to Truthdig. They were my first gay. I love them, man. I hope they do a good job. The thing is, when I used that proverb, when elephant fights, is the grass that suffers, I was once the grass, metaphorically. I was the grass. What I mean by it, my mother, I was the oldest son in the family, and I was a teenager, and it was us who suffered it. Suffered the consequence of men, two men fighting from two different tribes. Men just dies. Women and children suffer. The worst death is to suffer. Like basically wither away, no food, get raped, and just die slow death. 2 weeks of hunger under a tree, and before you know it, your heart stops, your kidneys shut down, and you ease to death. I think that's a horrific way of dying, and that's what war does to you. But when I was growing up, of course, Rambo was remarkable. This individual who, fights a whole nation and comes out. That's the man you want to be. There's nothing better than that when you're growing up and looking at this. You're trying to figure out who you are, whether you're a man or woman, or you don't know what you are, because before teenager you care about things that you really don't care about when you're a teenager. When I was a little boy, I cared about the rocks, the trees, and like the moon, the rain. When the rains, you run after in the rain. You care about those, soccer. But once you hit teenager, and all of a sudden you discover movies, going to the movies, and the fascination of girls, it's like everything changes. So that's the first movie that I absolutely love, and I loved it because he was a man, and I wanted to be just like that. But over the years, once you just see war, and you see what war does to you, and you see what it does to the killer, let me just give you a little thing about instead of just saying it. When I was in refugee camp, there was one guy who was a killer. He had killed people, and he had killed women and children. We knew it. He used to live in the same tent with us, and every single night, remember, there's like a line of tents, like 30,000 people live there, So everyone goes to the woods to use it as a bathroom, and we were living one of the last tent. So people walk through us to take care of themselves. And every night he would get up and fight with somebody. Every night. And he used to get beat up. We all knew it. So while we shared in the same tent with us, we all knew to make sure there's no knife around. There's nothing that can kill us around. Because in the middle of the night, he would just jump and try to strangle you. Wow. Because he had killed people. Because he acted like Rambo during the war. And now in the time of peace, he couldn't adjust. Yeah, he can't. Yeah, so the only way for him is to go back in the war until he dies. Wow. And in the Somali culture, you cannot kill yourself. Suicide is something new in the Somali culture. It's an abhor. If someone kills themselves, you leave a bad name to your family. You cannot do that. Man goes and fights and dies in the war theater, and people will talk good things about you. Such and such went to war defending his land, and now he died. Poetry will be made out of that. And Somalis are known as a nation of poets. Everybody can recite poetry. So when I was a little boy, looking at that movie, I mean, you know, I wanted somebody to recite a poet, you know, about me.
Yeah.
So there was such romantic war about this guy running around. But once I see war, I know that was something that I would say Rambo had killed more people in the theater of war than any other thing. The AK didn't do the work, didn't do the job. Movies did. You know, AK is an instrument of Rambo. Rambo is the one that sold war to third world countries, and every guy is trying to be Rambo in Somalia. Every guy in my childhood was trying to be like Rambo. One of my friend mimicked Rambo, and this is what happened to him. He's gonna be in my. I think I write a little passage about him in honor of him. Now he's dead, but he went to war with so many chains of bullets around him. But what he did is he had grenades around his body that a bullet hit one of the grenades and he blew up. Another one survived, but he was not the same. He was killed by another guy. So they both died. So all these Rambo-inspired kids sacrificed themselves for what? Yeah. For Hollywood. Recently, I saw Rambo at the Rambo 4. I think I went to the movie theater and I saw it. In the middle of it, I started sweating.
Wow.
I mean, everything about my life came back to me. I mean, I started sweating. I started breathing. I thought I was gonna have a heart attack. I had to get out.
Wow.
I had to get out. So I got out, and I was with friends, and I did not tell them why I got out. But I got out, went to the bathroom, look at myself in the mirror, wash my face, and know that it is the gory of the killing, the romanticization of the killing, because Rambo 4 I think kills more than Rambo 1st. He wipes out a whole village, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
One man killing a whole village, it's sickness.
Yeah.
So war does terrible things, man. There's one war I saw recently called I think Nation of Beast, I think Beast of Nation.
Okay.
On Netflix. That actually gives you an accurate portrayal, very close accurate portrayal of what happens in a war zone. Kids who are inspired by Rambo doing the killings.
Yeah.
I thought that movie was, I also couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
Even though I had to watch it, because sometimes I like to visit my own memory. Once you see war, man, it just stays with you forever.
Yeah.
For the last 23 years, 25 years, whatever it's about, since 1993, every 4th of July in America. Remember, I know for sure 4th of July, a day of celebration. I know it for sure. For me, subconsciously, war started.
Yeah.
And so in my mind switches quickly, and I'm thinking about war. What am I thinking about? War. I need to pick up whatever I have, walk. Even though I know for sure 100% I should go to Charles River and watch the fireworks. I already know that. But subconsciously, my heart's ticking. My liver is talking to me. My kidneys are saying something. My whole body is detached from me.
Yeah.
And that's what war does to you. We should stop war. We should become. I know war is cliche, is gonna come back, but those who have seen war, the veterans of Iraq War, the Afghani War, those who survived, those who have seen war, the price of war. I think we should all become Tim O'Brien.
Yeah.
The guy who wrote Things They Carry. I think he's now anti-war. There's a lot of guys who are anti-war. I think that should be empowered. Trump and his war machine should be stopped as well. And once again, I am not a politician, but have seen war. I love for this country. I think we should not be involved in all these wars. No, we should project what America it truly is. This country, we all live here. I love this country. I never had any issue. I haven't been mad in 20-something years.
Yeah.
What am I to be mad about? I got cold water. I got hot water. I got coffee. I got food. The air is clean. The roads are clean. Really? I have a car.
Yeah.
There's nothing for me to worry about.
Yeah, I have to worry about
So what we need to project what I have seen in this country. The belly of this country is beautiful. Yeah. And if we project the belly and how beautiful it is to the world is going to get inspired, and they're going to try to be like the United States of America. That's real, that's honest. It comes from writer's mouth.
That's why, yeah, I think it's so critical that people like you keep on putting out this work and this message of anti-war, because there's not enough out there. Like you're saying, we have all this movies, all this Hollywood that controls the media and what gets put out there, and obviously they're just putting out war movies and for money, right?
Nothing more than that. For money.
And also for enlistment. So this is the thing people don't know. After all these movies, guess what? Enlistments just goes up by a lot.
For those who do not know the theater of war, ask. I work for a college locally here, and there's those young veterans. I'm always attracted to veterans because I feel like they carry the same scars I do. Even though I've never killed anybody, once you see war, you're the same. You know, I can understand what a veteran is going through. And I always see a lone, young veteran man who's dealing with so much things that we've seen in the theater of war in Afghanistan and Iraq. So when I talk to him and I tell my tale and I tell them, I've seen war, that I was metaphorically the grass, but you were the elephant. You had a gun killing, but at the same time, we both seen war. Let's talk. They always open up to me. They know what war is like. So and there's enough of us who've seen war in this country who can voice, but somehow they're not being organized around this, projecting this message of peace. And if we don't do that, and we put out movies like American Sniper, the celebration of killing 400 men and women, ridiculous. Celebration of that's pathetic. I mean, I'm sorry to say this. Like, once again, I'm not a politician. I do not like, to be part of political groups. I want to be independent until death comes to me. Until the angel of death visits me, I want to have an independent voice, because I cannot be attached to some group, because I do not know what that group is going to do. I'd rather stay away from war. And so, I will speak out, but hopefully there'll be enough of us to counter those who love war, which have the machine to project.
Hopefully that's
I appreciate the interview, man.
Yeah, man.
Keep pushing.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for everything. I really appreciate you taking the time to doing this.
No problem, man. I do wanted to come here. And talk to you, man. You're doing a good work. You told me you want to, go to war zone and tell their stories. I'm telling you, man. You never know who you're gonna touch. You never know who your story is gonna touch. Because I wrote one time a piece. First time I knew that first time I convinced myself I was a writer. I wrote a piece called what was it called? The Power of the Mind. That's the first time I exposed what I carried. That's the first time I got an email that says, from a young lady who says, I wanted to kill myself. I read the story, because of you, I'm alive. And I was really petrified, man. I didn't know what to do. I really didn't know what to do. I don't know this girl. She lives in Canada. She doesn't even live in this country, but she wanted to kill herself. She read my story. Now she's not. She's living. I didn't know how to take it. I really didn't know how to take it.
A lot more people like that you.
I didn't know how to take it. And the story said this. All I wrote about it was this. I was in a leadership class, and there was a guy, a Green Beret, who taught the class. He made us break down, and then he tried to build us back up. So we all talk about things that are gory. I refuse to talk about what I've seen. I was the only one who didn't cry in the classroom. I couldn't imagine myself crying. But I see old men who's older than me who's crying. I couldn't understand it. Why? Because I was being judgmental. Because I've seen dead people. What is it to cry? Story? You joking with me? Like my mom was mean to me? I'm not gonna cry over that. What's the big deal about that? So after that, I went back to my hotel, and it was in May in New Hampshire. We were in a leadership retreat for the class. I wrote this essay called The Power of the Mind, and it wasn't even like well written essay, but at least it had gory stuff of what I've seen: the dead people, burying people, the twitching of the ear when a man gets killed, just gunning down innocent people, and how I fainted one time in the middle of dead people, and I got up and walked home by myself, and no one really cared. I mean, all these things I wrote, and that is what told me that I'm a writer. After that, I just couldn't imagine this girl read this stuff and now she's living. So you never know who's listening, you never know who is reading your work. So after that day, I said to myself, I'm going to write more.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to do it not for me, but for those people out there who are lonely with their thoughts, who do not have anything to channel. You know, imagine the guy who killed people in Vegas. If he opened up, if he read something that whatever that was going on in his head. Imagine if he read your story, you know, and he changed his life and he stopped killing. You know what I mean? All these people who are trying to do something significant, something larger than themselves. Because why is the people killing themselves? Because they're looking for meaning, or they lost meaning, and they're trying to create a meaning. So all these people who are lonely, and America is a lonely place sometimes because your device, your cat, or your dog, and there's nothing else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you need to have a channel, something, an outlet, you know. And a lot of these people nowadays. This is my what I do nowadays. If I see somebody with their phone sitting somewhere, I go to them and I say, "Hi, my name is Boyah. How are you?" And if they don't want to talk to me, I tell them, "Hey, I made a decision to say hello to everyone who has a phone, who's not talking to another human being, and I just want to say hello to you." And majority of the time, they cheer up.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You're an interesting character.
Yeah.
Who are you?" You know? And I think we need a revolution in that sense.
Yeah,
you know, that people, since we are social creatures, that we should be able to talk to each other. You know, we should cheer each other up, and we should tell our own stories, so this country and the world can be a better place, more peaceful place for all creatures. And I'm not talking about only human creatures. You know, you have to take care of the other creatures. You know, we always talked about Somalis, just the individual, the people. What happens to the animals? Does anyone ask?
Yeah.
No one cares. Do you know what I mean? There are other creatures that are living with us. There are other species that we have to care for them. So for us to create peace in this globe, it's not only for us. It's for the unseen. It's for the ants below our feet that we have to care for.
Yeah.
You know, so hopefully my writing is that gigantic picture of not just the humans, but
no, it is. And I think people don't realize that there's way more people that really get impacted and influenced through those writings. That there's probably way more people like that girl that you were talking about out there. Like, if you think about the millions of people that you've reached through your writing, obviously there's thousands and thousands of people that you've changed their lives just by sitting down and reading an article. It's really the power of words is really incredible.
I got it. I mean, last essay that I did, Danger in My Belly, over 900 people shared on their Facebook. And I can see, because share Facebook says it. Yeah. You know, so I'm sure those 900 people will learn something.
Yeah. And hopefully that also reaches maybe even the people in power, the military generals, the people that are the politicians, the people that are making these decisions to go to war. Like, hopefully it's also going to influence them. So I think that's.
And we should look at them as partners. Yeah. Because remember, realization is important. When you're talking to another two-legged creature, regardless of their situation, their color, whatever the hell they are, excuse my language, sometimes what's missing in their lives is the realization. You just cannot come and say, I realize something. No, you got to get it from somewhere. You have to trust your mind with another person, and maybe listen to your ears. You have to trust them with your ears and say, okay, 5 minutes, tell me what you think. You know, and those 5 minutes you might get to their mind, and you might make them realize it. So those who are in charge, whether they're after money or power, we have to be able to get to them, and make them realize that, for one, we're one species. North Koreans are not North Koreans; they're human beings, man. They're not, you know, this threat of just obliterating them is beyond imagination. Imagine in the galaxy of death. If this happens, and Donald Trump comes in front of God, you know, what is he gonna say? I obliterated 20 million? Yeah. I mean, really?
To protect.
Death is longer than life. When you die, it's an infinite.
I mean, the people that suffer, right?
I mean, think about this, man. I don't believe that you can just kill people and there's no consequence. I don't believe that. There is a consequence. I do believe it. I believe in destiny. We have to be able to make Donald Trump realize that those rhetorics are not helping the world. And Donald Trump, you are a president. If you're listening to me, I care for you. You are part of the two-legged creature.
Yeah.
You know, I got love for you, man. But stop polarization. Stop the polarization of this country. This country is one. The United States of America is beautiful. The reason why people are coming to this country, because America is a beautiful place. Who doesn't want to come to the beautiful place? Really? If Somalia was a beautiful place, we would go to Somalia. But Somalia is not a beautiful place. There's war. The reason why I came to this country, and because there's war, I didn't know where else to go. But when I came to this country, and I now know that the belly is beautiful, you know. And now that I'm educated, I can go back tomorrow. There's no problem. I'm a writer. I like, you know, if I go to Somalia, I went back to Somalia and I loved it. I might go back to Somalia and live there and write about it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, for those who are coming to this country, they are asset to this country. They're really asset to this country. Human beings are asset to you. You know, buildings are not asset to you. Money is not asset to you, because tomorrow you die, your money is going to go to your children. Your children are going to fight over it, and then that's it. But the ability for you to touch another human being, you know, it's not only great in this country, hereafter. When the angel of death visits you in your loneliest time and nobody can help you, and your soul drifts into the galaxy of death, we all know that there will be a place called the galaxy of death, where we're all going to line up naked. I know I'm saying in a very in a writer's way, but when that happens, you have to be able to say, I was a human being, you know, I made mistakes, but I care for the for the family of humanity. I really care for them. Donald Trump has to have that realization that don't put politics before human beings. Invest in human beings. Because another thing is, war is like the sun. It drifts like the sun. When Somalia got destroyed, the first country that invites us, that opened up their gates, United States was one of them. We'll never forget the United States of America. I'll never forget the United States of America. The United States, particularly for me, I came to this country with nothing, not even shoes. And now I'm talking to you. Now I'm a writer. I'm a published writer with an agent and a literary agent and all kind of stuff. It doesn't make sense to me. But it makes sense to me because America, right? So I have to be grateful. But the second country that opened their hearts to us was Syria. Look what's happening in Syria now.
Yeah.
Syrians never humiliate us. Saudi Arabia humiliate us. Any Somalis who went to Saudi Arabia did not say anything good about them.
Yeah.
The second country that did not humiliate us, because refugees belongs to nowhere. They belong to everywhere. And no one wants them. Pakistan. Any Somalis who went to Pakistan was honored. Literally honored. Yeah. And Somalis will never forget. And Somalis are poetic people.
The nation of poets.
Yeah, those are the nicknames, nation of poets. We recite poetry.
Yeah.
Do not spoil the poets from reciting the truth. Donald Trump I'm talking to.
Yeah.
The pure, beautiful poetry of the United States of America. And people in the world absolutely adore this country. Even those that you call them terrorists, if they had the chance to come to the United States, they would. But these are children who are lied to.
Yeah.
They don't have that. You know what I mean? This country is beautiful. Project beauty. Do not project ugliness. Because when you project ugliness, what do you get out of? You project death, that's what you get back.
Yeah.
You protect life, that's what you get back. You protect, peace, that's what you get back. Words are important. And I know I said this before you and I were born, we were words.
Yeah.
Before you came out, you were words.
Yeah,
what happens? Two people talk, they liked each other, it turns into love, they use words, you came out, your name was picked out of words. Words are incredibly important.
Yeah. You change the words. You change
yeah. If we want to change this country, change the words. Change the political words that we use. And make America what it truly is. Instead of localized politics. What Donald Trump is doing is a localized family, almost like tribalistic way of thinking. Like in Somalia, you say, I'm Darod, I'm Hawiye. These are the same tribe, they intermarry. They're exactly the same. You can't tell whether I'm Hawiye or Darod. Yeah. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it really
in this country, when you play local politics and you pin one against each other, what comes out of it? Two families of the same fighting each other. Irish, Italian,
Democrat,
Jewish.
Republican.
Exactly the same. They're going to fight over it. For what?
Yeah, for nothing.
What do you destroy the land for? So, what I love about America, one thing is this. I like the green grass. I absolutely like the green grass. The green grass is always perfect.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the trim trees,
Especially here in Massachusetts.
especially in Massachusetts.
Right.
Don't spoil that
Yeah.
and create war over that, because once war comes, no one is going to touch that. No one's going to perfect the grass, and everything's going to war messes up everything. Beyond human beings, don't mess up the land. This is a great, great, beautiful land. America is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Do not spoil that. Do not destroy how gorgeous this country is. I hope Donald Trump is listening to me.
Yeah.
That's my message. That's my message, That is my message.
Yeah.
Share it. Tell everyone, put on every website. We want peace in this world. And thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
They say the odds against me are crooked and impossible. Like I was born with a hole in my heart. It's an obstacle. I left to die by the doctors in the children's hospital. But I never lose hope. Success is psychological. The world is volatile and the street is my education. Shaping the nation like the blueprint of a mason. While Shawshank record deals get you raped on occasion. So I'm focused on my economic situation. I'm like the little kids on TV that dig through the trash. I hustle regardless of the way you talk shit and laugh. A lot of niggas drop science, but they don't know the math. Cause they mind is narrower than the righteous path. It's funny how on the block niggas that kill you for cash but never raise the gun to cry out freedom at last. The Cold War is over, but the world is still getting colder. Atlas walking through the projects with the hood on my shoulders. I would like to raise my children to grow to be soldiers, but then a general would decide when their life would be over. So I work hard until my personality split like the Black Panthers into the Bloods and the Crips. They said I'd never be shit, but now I sit and reminisce like Yeshua Ben Yosef flipping through Genesis.